In this video, I'm going to be using the universal curette to scale 8 and 9 and 24 and 25. First, I'm going to be doing surfaces toward me, so I'm sitting 8 o'clock to my patient, and we want to see what is the correct working end. For the surfaces toward me, if I put my UC against the tooth, you can see that the face of the blade is not facing the tooth. If I switch it around, the face of the blade, and I can achieve a 0-degree angulation, is against the tooth, and that is the correct working end. So starting on tooth number 9, 0 degrees, open up the blade so I can get about an 80-degree angulation, making sure my fulcrum is stable, and then small strokes, bringing my elbow out and rolling my instrument in as I get to the interproximal. Tooth number 8, starting at that middle part of the tooth, 0 degrees, and then I can open up and small strokes, rolling to get into the interproximal. Head up more. Okay. With the correct working end again, ensure that you're at 0 degrees before inserting subgingivally, and then you can open the blade a little bit and begin your strokes. Rolling as you get interproximal. Moving on to tooth number 8. Starting at that middle part of the tooth, make your UC about 0 degrees in order to insert subgingivally, then open it up in small strokes, rolling to get to the interproximal. And we want to select the correct working end going towards me. So again, the face of the blade is facing towards that tooth. That would be correct on the surfaces toward me. Incorrect, that face of that blade is facing away from the tooth. So starting with tooth 24, making the blade as close to 0 as possible for subgingival insertion, then opening it up and strokes until you get interproximal rolling in there, and making sure you get the entire surface up to where the contact is. Moving on to 25, as close to 0 for subgingival insertion, and then opening your blade up, small strokes, and rolling to get interproximal. Going on the lingual surface, starting at tooth 24, making sure you get it as close to 0 as possible for insertion, and then opening your blade up, open, small strokes, rolling. These are very skinny teeth, and then in the interproximal, go all the way up until you touch the contact. Tooth 25, open your blade, begin small strokes for scaling, roll, interproximal, and all the way up until you touch the contact. For this one, we're going to be working surfaces away from me. I'm going to be sitting at 12 o'clock to my patient, starting with teeth 8 and 9, making sure I'm at the middle part of the tooth, getting as close to 0 degrees as possible for insertion, opening my blade, and small strokes for scaling, pivoting around the tooth and rolling, and scaling up and towards the contact. Tooth number 9. It's close to 0 for insertion, opening the blade, small strokes, coming around the tooth, pivot and roll up into the contact. Now going on the palatal surface, starting at that middle part of that tooth around the cingulum, opening the blade, small strokes, going around, pivot and roll into the interproximal and up until you touch the contact. Tooth number 9, starting at the middle part, 0, open the blade, small strokes until roll into the interproximal and scale up until you reach the contact. Okay. On teeth 24 and 25, starting with tooth number 25. At that middle part of the tooth, try to get as close to 0 for insertion, open the blade, and small strokes, turn, pivot elbow out, scale up until the contact. Tooth 24, close to 0, insert, open the blade, small strokes, roll and pivot until you get up to the contact. On the lingual surface, get as close to 0 for insertion, open up your blade, small strokes, turn, roll it into the interproximal, and do your strokes up until you reach the contact. Insert for tooth number 24, open your blade, small strokes, turn, pivot your elbow in, and do your strokes until you reach the contact.